Good evening, and welcome to the Royal Giant Social Collective. This evening, we have the pleasure of presenting to you a collection of expressions from our community as we embark on a journey of discovery of self and the world. Thank you.
Once again, tonight's event is being broadcast live on the World Wide Web. The question tonight is, should the United States pay reparations for slavery?
Y'all Negroes want what? Reparations for slavery? For slavery.
It's a question that harkens to the earliest days of the American experience.
You want a check for being black?
The first 20 Africans were sold into slavery at Jamestown, Virginia in 1620.
Like, just keep it real. That's what it is. You want a check for being black? That's a sweet hustle. Let me know how that work out.
Rather, the question is whether that indignity has created an entitlement, a legal, political, or moral cause of action on behalf of black people against society as a whole.
So reparations is a term that's often used to mean a cash payment. Most importantly, however, this has gone unacknowledged. We are embarrassingly ignorant of our past.
$100,000 years ago, humanity was brought forth on this planet, giving birth to a human collective, faith and perseverance, and dedicated to the proposition that all men were created equal, at least in the eyes of God and the divine. Testing whether the human collective, or any collective so conceived, so dedicated, can long endure. Share and hold true the dreams and values of our ancestors, who gave their lives so that humanity might live. We echo their dreams in our discourse, dedicated to the great task before us, that from these honored ancestors, we resolve that our dead shall not have died in vain, that this collective, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that a collective of humanity, by humanity, for humanity, shall not perish from this earth. Thank you.
Aquaba, y'all. So I'm just sitting here with my ancestors eating this amazing kale salad. It got some beets in it. Look at the colors, girl. You already know it's organic, sister. You already know. So out of nowhere, white Jesus came and white Jesus was like, Gazi. I said, what, white Jesus? He was like, you need to help white people. I said, again, white Jesus, with what? He says, you need to help them with reparations. I said, oh, I got you, Jesus. I got you.
Reparation. The action of making amends for a wrong one has done by providing payment or other assistance to those who have been wronged. Carry connotations of money grabbing or financial handouts, but this motion is about more than that. Things got a little out of hand. By the time I cut his balls off, he had no ears and his eyeball, the right one I think, was hanging out of its socket. Too bad he died before we got much out of him. Some others were flogged to death. Others were roasted alive. Now, I think that this demonstrates the extent of colonial oppression. I do not believe that one can put a price on human suffering. And that is why I urge the House to propose the motion.
See, you have just as many black folk who say we need to forget about slavery and move on, and the white man don't owe us anything. So part of the reparations fight is you have to fight black people who say we don't need the reparations.
Thank you, Mr. Pires. And the first debater for the negative side of tonight's proposition is Professor Glenn Lowry.
Thank you. I rise to address the question, should the U.S. pay reparations for slavery? I'm going to argue in the negative on that question. I take no pleasure in doing so. Would that I would be somewhere else tonight than here before you arguing the negative of this question. It is not about money. What it's about is whether or not we are going to rise and be the people whom we have always proclaimed ourselves to be. You want me to monetize that? That's $300 billion and then we're done with it? No, not on my watch. This is not about black people and white people, human beings. This is about human beings. This is about America. I want us to understand that the stakes here are stakes for everybody. We're all on the same side. Let's be serious about dealing with our past. Let's not talk about reparations. Let's talk about justice, and let's mean it. Thank you.
Professor Lowry, thank you very much.
And then you sit down and you ask yourself, well, where did all the money go? All right? Y'all live in Skid Row, my family live in Lodge, right? And let's say this happened before we were born. 2 generations, I come to you, I found out about it. Oh my God, I'm so sorry about what my grandpa did to you and yours, man. Like, I had no idea. Listen, I want to let bygones be bygones right now. Let's just be friends, because I really want to know you like that. And you say to me, man, thank you for at least acknowledging that something bad happened, okay? Because I'm out here on Skid Row committing crimes of poverty trying to stay alive. Can we talk about getting my inheritance back? Something that you and I both know was ill-gotten. And I look at you like, well, maybe, come on, a long time ago. That's race relations in America right now.
I think people imagine reparations happening in the current political system as it is today. Now, but see, you have to envision, you have to understand how America thinks about racism and black people right now. No, we are talking about a system of plunder that begins in 1619 and continues up. And that people who went through that are alive and their children are alive, and we can depict and show, how that works. And so you understand the community that you live in is very, very different than at least America as it projects itself, out to the world on television. And I know that I'm not crazy. I was not crazy. He's invoking heritage. This is heritage too, man. This is why heritage ain't just the thing that flatters you. And this is, not a small thing. This is not a small thing at all. This is a case for reparations. I hope it's not the last article. It shouldn't be the last word.
Is this, that it didn't cost the nation 1 penny to integrate lunch counters. It didn't cost the nation 1 penny to guarantee the right to vote. But now we are dealing with issues that cannot be solved without the nation spending billions of dollars and undergoing a radical redistribution of economic power. Yeah.
Martin's very rare, very great man. Martin's rare for 2 reasons. Partly because just because he is, and because he's a real Christian and he really believes in nonviolence.
If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation. Don't let anybody take your manhood.
Poor Martin has gone through God knows what kind of hell to awaken the American conscience. But Martin has reached the end of his rope. There's some things Martin can't do. Martin's only one man. Martin can't solve the nation's central problem by himself. There are lots of people, lots of black people I mean now, who don't go to church no more and don't listen to Martin, you know. The Negro in this country, the future of the Negro in this country is precisely as bright or as dark as the future of the country. It is entirely up to the American people and our representatives. It is entirely up to the American people.
That we have a dastardly situation, but I'm asking you not to make politics as the crow flies, to use the fleeted phrase of Professor Oakeshott, but rather to consider what in fact is it that we Americans ought to do. What are your instructions that I'm to take back to the United States, my friend? I want to know what it is that we should do, and especially I want to know whether it is time, in fact, to abandon the American dream as it has been defined by Mr. Hickok and Mr. Burford. What, in fact, is it that we ought to do, for instance, to avoid two humiliations mentioned by Mr. Baldwin as being a part of his own experience during his lifetime. At the age of 12, you will find on reading his book, he trespassed outside the ghetto of Harlem.
If I'm not the nigger here, and you invented him, you the white people invented him, and you gotta find out why.
Well?
And the future of the country depends on that, whether or not it's able to ask that question.
The final debater on the affirmative side is Christopher Hitchens.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I hope I can say. Comrades and friends, I might go so far. So since the case has been so well phrased by my predecessor speakers, I thought I might just begin by a thought experiment by an argument from analogy, that the original crime was the desecration of a great historic culture and a great historic temple, a gross insult to an entire culture, the amputation of an organic and aesthetic whole, a theft, a rape, a taking, perpetrated by the strong upon the weak. Was there a taking, a theft, a rape, a dispossession, a confiscation? There isn't a thinking person who can say no to that. The evidence is very clear, and it mounts with every chapter of historical inquiry.
Say that in order for us to get reparations, we have to disidentify as from being Americans on some level, because reparations are given to nations. So we have to recognize that we are prisoners of war and victims of white supremacy. Because in order to win the reparations battle, we have to take it to the world court, not America's courts. If you take it to America's courts, then you're admitting that America has jurisdiction over you.
In order to file genocide charges against the United States government or any country in the world, it's called the 1503. This is too long to go into. The Africa group presented a position that 1998 that the transatlantic slave trade was a crime against humanity, and took a delegation to Geneva, Switzerland, and charged the United States government officially with genocide and the demand for reparations with the support financially, because you know we didn't have no money to get to Geneva, Switzerland. It was financed by Minister Farrakhan, and I can say this publicly for the first time. Minister Farrakhan paid for all of our tickets to go to Geneva, Switzerland.
And so at this point in time, I want to bring before you none other than the brother minister Louis Farrakhan.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, We give him praise and thanks for his prophets and his messengers and their scriptures. But when you really think about those who went before us and the price that they paid to put us where we are, what kind of generation will we be to have ancestors that have gone through what our ancestors have gone through, the people that have dedicated their lives to this, and then when they speak, we act. It's not about applause, because the talk has been done and we talk too damn much and we do too little. You can't go to power just with a cry for justice. You should never think that the enemy is gonna give you the justice that you seek. We've been crying at his foot for too damn long. We got to have the power to force justice. Slaves always want to be accepted. That's what got you in the shape you're in. You're litigating your damn self into poverty and want. It ain't litigation, it's revolution that is needed. I speak for the dead who have no voice today. I speak for the living who are voiceless. I speak for the unborn generations who need a voice. If you don't want me to tell you the truth, then leave me the hell alone. Because when you call me, I'm gonna tell it like it is or die trying. This is a family. And wherever we are on the earth, we need to fight for that kind of justice that will repair the damage that the enemy has inflicted on us, that we suffer at this very moment. Please forgive me for overextending my time and for my harsh words. Love you all.
Boom. All right. So I'm going to read a couple of quotes. Then we'll rock out with the Royal Giant Address. It lies within ourselves and not in our own actions to possess either happiness or holiness, or by sloth and negligence to fall from happiness into wickedness and ruin. For all the unjust deeds that each man has ever done, and for all the men to whom he has done injustice, he pays the penalty in due course. All right. The good and bad fortune of man are not predestined. Man brings on himself these things by his conduct. The consequences of good and evil follow as the shadow follows the man. The fault of others is easy to perceive, but the faults of oneself are more difficult to perceive. A man winnows his neighbor's fault like a chaff, but his own fault he hides. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They do not toil, neither do they spin. In nothing, be anxious. Fearlessness, singleness of soul, will always strive for wisdom. Be the signs of him whose feet are set on that fair path which leads to heavenly birth. Thank you.
Has the American dream been achieved at the expense of the American Negro?
The motion before the House tonight is the American dream is at the expense of the American Negro. It is now with very great pleasure and a very great sense of honor that I call for Mr. James Baldwin to speak third to this motion.
Now we have Mr. James Baldwin, the star of the evening, who has been sitting, listening attentively, getting a wonderful reception here in the Cambridge Union. Tremendous enthusiasm from all sides of the House to Mr. Baldwin, who has been listening to the argument. Now we'll bring the voice.
Good evening. I find myself, not for the first time, in the position of a kind of Jeremiah. The inequality suffered by the American Negro population of the United States has hindered the American dream. It depends on assumptions which we hold so deeply as to be scarcely aware of them. The Mississippi or the Alabama sheriff, who really does believe when he's facing a Negro boy or girl that this woman, this man, this child must be insane to attack the system to which he owes his entire identity. Of course, for such a person, the proposition of which we're trying to discuss here tonight does not exist. And on the other hand, I have to speak as one of the people who've been most attacked by what we must now here call the Western or the European system of reality. What white people in the world. I am stating very seriously, and this is not an overstatement, that I picked the cockpit, and I carried it to market, and I built the railroad under someone else's whip for nothing. For nothing. This, in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And no one can challenge that statement. It is a matter of historical record. In another way, this dream, and we'll get to the dream in a moment, is at the expense of the American Negro. The American soil is full of the corpses of my ancestors. Why is my freedom or my citizenship or my right to live there, how is it conceivably a question now? Until the moment comes when we, the Americans, we, the American people, are able to accept the fact that I have to accept, for example, that my ancestors are both white and black, that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity in which we need each other, and that I am not a ward of America. I am not an object of missionary charity. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment, there is scarcely any hope for the American dream, because the people who are denied participation in it, by their very presence, will wreck it. And if that happens, it's a very grave moment for the West. Thank you.
Tremendously moving moment now. The whole of the Union standing and applauding this magnificent speech of James Baldwin. Never seen this happen before in the Union in all the years that I have known it. Baldwin is smiling, obviously delighted by his reception, tremendously moved by it.
Thank you for the pleasure of your company this evening. We hope you enjoyed the journey as well as the collective expression. Good night.
It's starting to rain again. The rain had slacked up a little bit. The back motors of the ship are just holding it just enough to keep it from... It burst into flames. Get it started, get it started. It's fighting and it's crashing. It's crashing terrible. Oh my, get out of the way, please. It's burning, bursting into flames and it's falling on the mooring mast and all the folks between it. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's like 400 or 500 feet into the sky. It's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. The smoke and the flames now, and the flame is crashing to the ground, not quite to the mooring mast. All the humanity and all the fans are just screaming around it. I told you, I can't even talk to people. There's friends around there. I can't talk, ladies and gentlemen. Honest, it's just laying down massive smoking wreckage. And everybody can't hardly breathe and talk and screaming. Lady, I'm sorry. Honestly, I can hardly breathe. I'm going to step inside while I cannot see it. Johnny, that's terrible. Listen, folks, I'm going to have to stop for a minute because I've lost the voice. This is the worst thing I've ever witnessed.